Hello everybody. We're going to take a couple of images here and make them into like a line drawing kind of a thing. Maybe give them a little color and then put it on a different background. This will be your assignment. You might want to open up this woman, the surprised woman face and follow along with for this tutorial. First thing I want to do is make a selection. This is all a pure white background. So I'm going to come over here underneath my eraser tool, in this case to my magic eraser tool, which I usually use if I have something that's pure white like this. Now, this tolerance is set for 32 by default. So if I click in it, I can see that 32 does a pretty good job. But look at what it did. It got rid of the white, this kind of white in here. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to take this tolerance down maybe to 10. Click again. It left that other white. And again, it did a pretty good job with that, and I'm happy with that. Now I'm just going to manipulate this image. First thing I'm going to do is go up to, I'm going to make this a smart object, I'm sorry. So I'm going to right click in this layer and convert to smart object. Then go to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. Now depending on the image that you use, you're going to have to change this radius. So I can't give you an exact number. But you do want it to be pretty blurred out. In this case, this should be maybe around 20 or so. I'm going to click OK. Then you can see, since I made this a smart object, I can double click on this Gaussian blur right here. And I'm going to change my blend mode. And I'm going to change this blend mode all the way down to divide. Okay. You can see already it's given us this image, and it's kind of interesting. But we're going to do a few more things with it. First, I'm going to make this a black and white. I'm going to go filter, camera raw filter. In this camera raw filter, over here, I'm going to click on black and white. And then I'm going to click in this grid. Browse the profiles. This will open up like this. Open up the black and white down below. And then you can just kind of skim through and choose one maybe that has the brightness and darkness areas that you like the best. I'm going to try this one, number 5. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to come up here and close. When I come back to my filters here, I can still manipulate a little bit with my temperature, maybe bringing back a little more detail, my tint, and maybe even my exposure, but I don't want to get too much there. So I'm going to bring back a little more detail. Once you get that set, you can click OK. Then you're going to go up to Filter, Filter Gallery, and within the Filter Gallery, go down to Stylize and Glowing Edges. In the glowing edges, I'm going to make my edge width probably 1, my edge brightness, again depending on your image, but I'm going to stick with about a 3 here, and smoothness I'm going to take down to 1, although you can change these later on. You can manipulate this how you want. And then OK. One more time, I'm going to come over here now to what I just put on, which is the filter gallery. I'm going to double click these sliders right here. Again, to bring up my blending options. And in my blending options, I'm going to change this to subtract. And now I'm left with this. You can see I have this little kind of an outer glow around it. That came from my selection. So I'm not too worried about that. Now the last step here is to filter and stylize and go down to oil paint. This is an interesting effect, and then you can just play with your sliders to see how much stylization in this oil paint filter that you want to give it. Stylization, change that, change the cleanliness. Scale, well, make sure you turn the lighting off. Okay, turn the lighting off. Scale, won't really affect it, and neither will bristle detail since we turn lighting off. Okay, so then you can manipulate these sliders, kind of get the look that you want. I want mine a little bit more clean, but I do want that stylized look to it. And I'm okay with this one now. Now the great thing about this is now you could go back and change some of these things, right? So I could come back in my filter gallery, double click on the word filter gallery, and I can change my stylized edges to see if how things change when I do change those filters that I put on. I am going to go back and put this down to 3 because I like that a little bit better. Also, everything is on one layer, so that's nice too here. I just close those things up, and now I have my one layer with my manipulation on it. Now, other things that we can do with this now are I can give this a little bit of color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my quick selection tool, and let's say I just want to give a little bit of color, different colors to her shirt. I'm going to make this selection, see if I can do a good job of it. Come over here and get the rest of this. And that's not too bad because of the filter I'm going to put on it. You don't have to be exactly perfect. I'm going to take that selection, Command J, to put that on its own layer. So now I have it here. And if now I did want to give that, and I have like a bluish color on my foreground, if I did want to give that a blue color, I want to fill it. So if I go Alt Backspace, it fills the whole thing. I don't want to do that. I want to Command click in my thumbnail to get my selection back. And then I'm going to Command or Alt Backspace to fill. And I'm going to Command D to deselect it. Now this is where then you come into your blend modes right here. So I'm just going to scroll up and down my blend modes until I find a blend mode that I really like. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to stay on linear light. Now if I wanted to do more, we go back to my background layer, go back to my quick selection tool, and let's say I wanted to change the mouth color, right? I'll do the same thing. I'm going to make that selection. I'm going to Command J, put that on its own layer. I'm going to just call that mouth, and this was shirt. I'm going to go back now to my mouth. I'm going to Command click in the thumbnail to get that back. And I'm going to go with a really deep red. I'm going to fill that. Then I'm going to do the same thing. Come here and go through my blend modes until I can find one that I kind of like. And I actually kind of like that really bright there. So you can go through and do this with whatever you want. Now with things like the eyes, again, yeah, I could probably do it with my quick selection tool. I'm going to go back to my background layer. And I'm going to just be really careful here not to get a whole bunch, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to work out because of how this works with the colors. So let's say I change my eye color now, and I'm going to go with something kind of strange. I'm going to Command J, put that on its own layer, and then Command click to get the selection back. And I'm going to fill it, and then I'm going to go and change my blend mode. That's kind of cool right there. So in this way, then you can give it very specific coloring. So once I get this all done, I can either go and select all of my layers and then move that. And where we're going to move it into is like an image here. You can see I was working on an image of Grace Kelly earlier. Just going to turn that one off. So I have a whole bunch of pages, really high resolution, really good stuff. And I would do the same here. So I can either do that, or if I select all my layers, I can right click and I can say merge layers. Then I'm going to take this, put it in this big document. You can see it's very big. I'm going to resize how I want. And even now, I could come in here and say, okay, I want to maybe change this blend mode too. Maybe I do want it to look something like this, which is kind of interesting. And have the text come through the face. And this is, again, totally up to how you want this to look. I do kind of like that. Okay. So maybe now I stick with this. And then on this is called ArtnWordz. I'll show you where I got the inspiration for this. And then I would put some text up on top, and I can do a whole bunch of different things. Maybe some butterflies coming, out of her head. If I did want to do something like that, I can just take my lasso tool, and I'm going to lasso around her head here. And then I'm going to not Command J, but a Shift Command J, which will actually cut that out and put it on its own layer. Then if I do a Command T, and then I have this kind of a look where you'll see on some of the other samples that I'm going to show you that this is a kind of a common thing where now she has things coming out of her head. As I said before, I did work a little bit with Grace Kelly, and I put some text, and I changed that blend mode, I guess, to hard light, right, because I kind of like that. And I also put stroke around it, and the color overlay is nothing. I ended up getting rid of that. Right? So this is what we're kind of striving for. Now, just to begin with here, I'm not going to do the whole thing here, but this image of Dwayne Johnson, okay, it's not a solid color background. What I can do, which would be really easy, and in this case it would probably work really well, go to my quick selection tool, and I'm going to come up here and say, okay, try to select this subject. Click on that. It's going to work through this a little bit. Okay, it did a pretty good job of selecting him and not the background, except you can see I have some problems here, maybe get rid of this. So in this case, I would go back to my lasso tool, and I'm going to Alt to subtract, and I'm just going to draw this and come around, and I'll do the same thing right up in here. Draw that to subtract that. It's a pretty good image. And then I'm going to go to Select and Mask. I can see this on white, or I can change the view, whatever I want. Black, I think white is the way to go here. And then I probably would increase my smart radius, my radius here a little bit. You can see that things tend to come back a little bit, but I do want to increase this just a little bit, and maybe even smooth this a little bit too. Say OK, and now I have this. I don't want to delete him, so I'm going to go Select Inverse. If I hit now my delete key, this is going to pop up. This pops up because my layer is locked. I'm going to unlock that layer. I'm going to hit my delete key and get rid of that background. And then I would start the process, right? Right click, convert to smart object, and go through that same process with this image. Now, I did want to show you, because this is kind of where we're going now. I have a whole bunch of really high resolution backgrounds here with from old dictionaries. But this is the site where I got this inspiration from, and you can see that there's a lot of different things going on here with coloring, with adding things. Here's Ali, the boxer, whose famous quote was, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And then if I go back, I can see some of these other people images. Now your assignment, you're going to have to do 3 of these. One of these has to be people or a person. Could be somebody famous. Could be maybe a musical group that you like, or an individual. But you can see they're very colorful, and that's what I want you to do. Also, I want you to send me your original images so I can see what you have manipulated to get to this point. So there's a whole bunch of different looks here. You can go to this ArtnWordz. They sell these. You can see these are 21 bucks each. To purchase this, and then people put them up on the wall, or you can make your own now. So in this shop, if I go here, I can see, okay, I have animals, birds, bugs, butterflies. So 1, you have to do a person or people. 2, you have to do an insect or an animal. And then the 3rd one is your choice, whatever you want it to be. These are, play on words here. Let it be, just be. Manipulated. Okay, so when you're done with trying these things out, take a look at ArtnWordz, and see and get some inspiration from some of these. Some of these are, of course, movie inspirations, right? From Jaws, for instance. But they're totally up to you. Okay. Take a look at the assignment, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. Good luck.